Build Your Personal Brand Summit. Oh, Personal Brand Empire Summit, not just a personal brand empire summit. And today I have one of the most interesting personal brand entrepreneurs that you guys are going to be super stoked to meet. You've never heard some of the stuff she's about to tell you, and you're going to be super glued into this episode, I promise you. Today we have Kim Woods. She's an intuitive business mentor, and she helps you shed societal expectations and familial conditioning to live your true life's purpose. She's created a 3-part Power of Purpose protocol where she channels the voice of your soul to remove any lack of clarity about your soul mission, release your need to give, and break patterns, preventing you from living in endless joy, abundance, and success. Kim, that is the most awesome bio I have ever read. Welcome.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Joanne. It's wonderful to be here today. I love what I do so much. I just can't help talking about it and just wanting to work with people. So I'm going to blather on unless you want to, give me questions and get me back on track to, talk about how to get more money right now than you could ever even imagine. And I can tell you all the keys. But do you want me to just lead right in with that, or do you want me to?
I want all of that. All of that you just said. I want
all of the gooey goodness, right? Well, it's beautiful because they go hand in hand, right? So when I talk about this, get the keys to make big money right now, people are probably like, yeah. I've got the keys. And you know what you do? You have beautiful keys. However, do you have the key? And this goes right with what I do, because you're thinking a lot of people out there right now, they're talking about mindset. Mindset's beautiful. Mindset is the first step. If you have a closed mind, or if you're doubtful or fearful, obviously you're not going to be talking and like really leading in and saying, oh, show me the money right now, right? You're going to be like kind of weaving and rolling around with that doubt and that uncertainty. So having that growth mindset, having that open mindset, having the mindset for abundance and joy and success is the first step. However, here's the thing with the mind. The mind is a beautiful gift, but it's also a weapon. And when I talk about that, people kind of, because, our minds, here's the thing with our mind, even right now, our mind is programmed to protect us. And so as our mind is protecting us, our mind doesn't want us to deal with anything unknown or anything uncertain or anything unfamiliar. And think about what's going on right now, right? So everything is uncertain, everything is unfamiliar, and everything is unknown. So the mind is in overdrive. And here's the deal. We can love our minds because it's doing its job. But its job isn't about, taking that leap of faith and just going with the flow and just saying everything's going to be groovy good, even though I don't know. The mind is like, right? The mind is like freaking itself out. And so I love that people are out there talking about mindset. That is gorgeous. Keep following that, keep doing that. But I'm here to tell you that that's the first step. That's 30% of the equation. If you get, and when you get beyond that mindset of, okay, I've calmed my mind down, I've leaned in, I've done my affirmations and my visualizations, and I can glean, I can then take that next step. That's where all the goodness lies. The key, what I want to talk about is after the mindset. It's really about your purpose. And this goes back to what I do, right? So, and it goes back to my story. Because I wouldn't be all like freakishly jazzed to be doing this if this wasn't personal, right? So I had a 7-figure business. I have a beautiful husband and loving children, and everything is wonderful in my life. And yet, this was a handful of years ago, I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. I'm not feeling as if I'm like aligned with myself. I feel as if I'm a little bit off. Yet, what do? Your mind says, keep going. This is great. You have everything that you could imagine. You have success, you have love, you have happiness, right? But it was really, for me entering this, it was through joy. It was, where's my joy? I wasn't feeling that joy. So for me, what I then, kind of said, okay, what am I going to do? And did this odyssey for about 10 years, which I don't want any of you to have to do, because that was just too fraught with all the things all the minefields, right? So I really got into spirituality, got into the intuitive side, really, really wove that into my life and realized that I need to find my true life purpose. Like I need to really find, like, what am I here on this earth to do at this time, in this place, with my gifts, with these people? And so for me, it was weaving that intuitive side with the business and doing healing around that and shedding the expectations and getting rid of the conditioning. Because going back even further, realized that, oh, that was part of my personal story. Part of my, breakthrough story. We all know that that's a, good handle here, right? About having a narcissistic parent and not seeing daylight. So not being seen or heard or known, and fulfilling external expectations, being conditioned around doing certain things. That's where you're not under your own power and under your own purpose. So weaving that back to what we're talking about here today, the keys really to be under your own power in your own purpose. Because I'm going to tell you, that is so deep and so compelling, and you'll be so rabidly passionate about it that anything going on in the world is what's going on in the world. And you're still, going forward. You're so deeply rooted. So what I've been telling my followers is that, we could be tumbleweeds right now. We could be those, just like ungrounded, just tumbleweeds, just like, rolling through across the desert. Or we could be these big, beautiful trees that are swaying in the wind a little bit. Because we want to pivot. We want to take this pause moment. This is an unprecedented time. We want to honor that. We want to honor the people that are on the front lines. We want to reach out to others who need help and support. And yet, this is not going to be a fleeting thing. This is going to be much longer than we had first anticipated. So the mind could be going through and just like trying to grapple with that. And yet, when we're on our purpose and we're on our path, and when we're really, our hearts are involved and our souls are involved, we continue and we do our work and we give our gifts and we make ourselves more visible, more available, whether that's with acts of bravery or acts of leadership or acts of kindness. So see, I told you I would blather on about this. So I'm going to pause to see if you have any questions.
I love the analogy about, instead of being, you can be a tumbleweed or you can be this big, beautiful tree swaying in the wind. And that's what I feel like so many entrepreneurs are really deciding right now. What will they choose to be, and how will they make that actually happen? So I love that analogy, and I want to make a social media graphic out of it.
It's 100%. It's landing with everybody. I mean, that's because everybody's visual, right? So, and this is something the mind can grasp, right? Like the mind can picture, I'm a tumbleweed, and you don't see that day by day if you're following social media and you're rolling a little bit and then you're reading the news and then you're reacting to what somebody else is doing. What I find, it's in that when you're in that reactive mode. And it's natural. This is human nature. It's like, be kind to yourself and say, okay, but have a moment of that and then really root yourself, like really root yourself in your purpose. And then that's where you get those deep, deep, deep roots where your branches are swaying. And look at a tree. It's beautiful when the branches are swaying in the wind, right?
Right. And so how does someone know that they've found that true life's purpose? They're in their power. Is it a feeling? Is there a checklist? Like, how does somebody know?
I know. So here's the thing. I can be super cheeky and say, well, you can have one session with me. And that is 100% true. But I want to give tools, right? So the ways I found to do it with groups is that I'm going to give a few tips about this. So we recognize that the mind is, kind of up here, right? And so you can think of that as like the tumbleweed kind of, rolling around. You want to get more deeply rooted, right? So I know there are people that are working with mindset and that are saying, really put emotions in it, get your will involved. That's one layer to it. That's the layer to then be more deeply rooted and not be that tumbleweed. However, there is more to it than that. There are terms out there that I want to use, familiar terms, right? So terms out there where, your zone of genius, right? But it's actually a little bit deeper than that, in that what I'd like you to do, and you can left brain this if you want. I'm going to give you a left brain and I'll give you a right brain. So for left braining, it's an analysis. What I'd love for you to do is think of 2 or 3 moments. You know those moments that are just like the best moments ever? They're the ones that you just are like, and it's the sale, of course, is one and great, but get underneath the covers of that and think why it was so good. But also too, when you were working with that client, if you're in service, or if there's something you talked about with a product, if you're in product sales, really think about, and this is about you, this is about going inward. What was it about you and what you were doing that super skippy jazzed you, right? So that, and it could be, well, I was communicating like a ninja, or I was really listening and responding, or I loved that this got extended from this one moment to this longer moment. You know, you're looking for things that really, really ignite you at a very deep level. So that's an analytical piece that you could do. On the more intuitive side, or the more right brain side, do a deep meditation, like a really deep meditation, and go in and ask the questions like, what is my purpose? You know, can you give me information about my purpose? You know, there are guided meditations out there. You know, there are groups out there. If you're savvy with meditation, this is what you'll gravitate to. If you're not, this is not the first thing I would say that you should do, because I wouldn't want you to get frustrated. The analytical piece would be something that you'd want to lean into. There's a few other things that you can do, and they're kind of in the middle. One is, you can remember, and this, I love doing this exercise. I cannot tell you how many Fortune 500 CEOs I've had do this exercise. It is stunning. So what it is that you literally remember what you wanted to be when you're about 5 or 6 years old, because there is beauty in that. And I have that in a section of a book. I wrote a book all about abundance, and it's in there. And so what you do is you literally like think about, like, did you want to be a ballerina? Did you want to be a fireman? Did you want to be, you know, a space, you know, like an astronaut? There's really, like, there's skills in there that you gravitate towards, that you can actually look at now and say, oh, I see how this could actually be part of the work that I'm doing. Like for me, I wanted to be a doctor and I wanted to be a ballerina. I don't know how I was going to reconcile those two things, but 100% I wanted to be both. And so if you look at my work now, super want to help people, want to heal them. That's part of what I do when we release those, you know, ancestral or unconscious or, you know, limiting beliefs. And then I help with doing strategy, and I help with, you know, getting you onto your life purpose, you know, path. So there's that helpful part. The ballerina is, I love doing stuff like this. Look at me, I cannot stop talking, right? Like Kate says, oh, just talk. And I'm like, blah, 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 right? So love doing this. So if you look at that, again, I do have a whole exercise about this. That's one way to do this. Another way is core values. The values that really resonate with you, like the ones that you just can't help yourself. Like joy is one of mine, like, and it's been one of mine for years. I don't know if I'm ever going to let that go. You know, a handful of years ago, wisdom was mine. That was more in that very patriarchal, you know, very conventional business setting. And then when I started transitioning into this work, it became wonder, you know, a little bit more enchanting, a little bit more delightful. But your core values could be about service or community, or about health, or about blessings, or about abundance. Going back to those core values will get you more aligned with your purpose. So I've given you tools that are more mainstream and less, you know, less woo, but you do have that deep meditation. And, you know, it's really about excavating and really going deep. And this is an internal work. This is, I'm not going to say go follow, you know, 17 people and see what they're saying. That's tumbleweed-like. You really want to go inward, and you really want to get to the root of who you are, because that's going to give you a lot of answers.
I have a question.
Yes.
And maybe this might be helpful. It seems like, so core values can change. I think some people feel their core values can't, and they keep trying to go back to the value that they recognized before, but maybe they've changed.
That's absolutely right. So what ends up happening with values when I do values with people, and I've been doing this in business for 20 years. So, you know, you do your business values, and then I would always do the leaders' values on a personal level, because that's really important. So there's something else I'm actually tangenting a little bit here, Joanne, if you'll, you know, bear with me for a moment.
Yeah.
Your business can have values that are different than your values, even when you're a solopreneur, because there might be different things that you want to accentuate from a business perspective that personally, like one of my personal 2020 intentional values is enchantment. So is that going to be a business value? It could be, but it might not. So I know I'm going roundabout. I'll get to this, but values to me, when I talk about values, there are those ones that are just intrinsic to who you are. And so you might have 2 or 3 of those that you're just like, that's just who you are. That's what I was talking about here. But then I did mention those ones that you want to lean into a little bit. Like when I went from wisdom to wonder, it was that my mind, I would weave patterns for people, and I was a business advisor for very top tier people. They did not want me to be like wonder, right? A lot of them were like, keep the woo. I'll take all that groovy goodness that you have on the business side, right? So being the wise one, being the one that was there was something like you're sitting in big boardrooms and you're doing negotiations, or you're dealing with a sale, or there are things that are emotional. Wise, the wisdom, the person that's just, what the work I do now is more about wonder, because it's about like opening your mind to that unknown or that unfamiliar. So Joanne, you're absolutely right. You can grow and evolve, and your intentional values can shift with that.
Awesome. I think that's important for so many people to realize. And maybe it's a value that they've always had, but it's kind of buried. And you just get those moments where it's time to bring that value out more than another.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I talk about core values for you and your business, and then I talk about intentional values, because again, those are the ones that you want to lean into more. But your core values, like integrity is one of my main, is the main core value for me. And so if you think about that, there's authenticity that rolls off that. There's loyalty, there's service, there's community, there is wisdom. I mean, there's so many things rolled up into that. That one has been, I don't think that will ever change in my entire life. That's just the thing, you know? Whereas wonder, like I'll just like overshare this year, my values are wonder, power, and enchantment. So those are, and if you think about like the work that I'm doing is about your power, it's about your purpose with a wildly open mind. And then enchantment's just because I think it's super fun.
I love the word enchantment. That's amazing.
Isn't it? And so for you, like the words should be delicious. Like you should be like,
oh, I love like everything about that right now.
Yeah.
So I guess, so knowing as many like entrepreneurs as we know, and like I had this happen where I had a former business, a previous business that was really wonderful for a lot of people except for me.
Yeah.
That I thought that, you know, I was
relate.
Yeah, I still get emails like, oh, you saved my life and blah blah blah, and it like drained me of, I mean, it took me years to recover from that business after I closed it. And what's funny about that is so many entrepreneurs that I talk to, it's like they're constantly stuck in this, well, I started this thing, or I'm doing this thing, and I'm so invested in it monetarily, my time, my family. But what's really at stake for those people who are not in their purpose, who are not living in that purpose? What's at stake?
Yeah. So that's a beautiful, I love that. So what's at stake? What's at stake is their joy. And what's at stake is ease, right? So it's not going to get easier. It's going to get harder. And if they're not able to find their joy, then it's never going to be joyful, right? So what I do when I work with people is, here's the thing. We all come to this time with beautiful experience, no matter how much we want to have that experience or not, right? So my thing is about grabbing those underpinnings of that experience, because there's always something you can use, and bringing that forward into your now realigned purpose, right? And it could be that you're realigned because you have absolutely shifted. That 100% could happen. Or it could be that you're now aligning with your true purpose, right? And I will tell you what's at stake. Here's the deal. It's 2020. I am going to put a timestamp on this. There is no more playing around. This is where I'm going to go a little woo. Like the time is now. Like literally this year is the rite of passage. It is about you showing up for yourself as a leader for yourself and to lead your life. And integrity is the word of the year, which is kind of why I'm grooving with 2020. So with that, what I say to people is that sometimes money is too expensive. It's just way too expensive.
I love that.
And and I don't care what the money is, you know, and I learned that early on with my husband. He was in a business with a handful of other people. It was doing crazily well, and he loathed it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we pivoted. We went into business together, young children. That is something like that is just insane. But it was what we were meant to do. So we did that, very successful. We each walked away. I'm doing what I'm doing. He's doing what he's doing. And what ends up happening sometimes is that whatever business you're in, you know, you constantly want to be growing. You do want to be evolving and expanding, whether that's deepening in the expansion. So it could be either depth or breadth. It's when you stop doing that things can become really stale. When you find yourself dreading, you know, when you find yourself not, like, you go to bed tired more than when you woke up, right? So that's an energy drain. When you find yourself looking at your calendar and you can't get excited, like, I have to tell you, I wake up every day and I am just like, what do I get to do today? And you guys, I'm way older than most of you people. Like, I am like, I'm like, that's not something that my peers are doing. I am like, I found my lane. I am so happy about my lane. And I recognize my lane's going to keep growing and shifting. So that was one piece of it. And then the other part of it is that recognizing that passion, true passion, is messy. So here I am. I'm this business strategist, right? I'm supposed to know all the things. Strategy is long-term. It's that big view. It's, you know, I'm guiding everybody. I'm the wisdom queen, right? So like, I'm doing all those things. And yet my curve to come from the business, you know, strategist to where I am now was, I wrote children's books and I started doing things with families, and because I was being led, and I allowed the leading to happen because there was something there. I wasn't sure of what was there. There was something there, and I knew it was going to get me to where I was going to be, even when I didn't know where that was going to be. This is where that uncertainty comes. This is why I talk about the mindset is great, but it's only the first tool. It's only the first step, because really taking that leap of faith and just kind of like jumping in, that's what we're being called to do right now. That's 100%.
I love that. I call it, you know, get out of the warm jacuzzi and jump into the big cold pool. It's sometimes exhilarating, right? And sometimes,
yeah, I'm saying to people, you have to fling yourself off the cliff. I like yours. Yours is much more inviting.
I don't know. I think they're both pretty.
Well, sometimes people, they just stay in their little comfort bubble with the blanket and just want to stay there. But a lot of times there's a lot of joy, greatness, and excitement when you jump off the cliff or you jump in the cold pool, right? When you were dared when you were little. That's what I think about. So I love that analogy. That's a great reminder for everyone that's in business and looking to make a change.
Yeah. And all saying all this, I know I titled talking about big money. Here's the money comes. Like, when you're in your true purpose and when you are standing in your power and you're doing the things you're meant to do, oh, by the way, there's the money. So right. If you look at all my messaging, I don't really talk about the money. I love money. Don't get me, I love money. I love it. I make money. I love money. It's awesome.
Right.
I don't talk about it because it comes. It happens. It's like,
right.
Oh, when you're looking the other way, like, you know, what did John Lennon say? Something like, you know, life is happening when you're making other plans. Well, you could switch that to be like, the money happens when you're on your purpose. So.
Mm-hmm.
So what I love about, you know, your analogy kind of about that kind of winding path, that it's messy. So many entrepreneurs think that it's supposed to be easy because they're told that if it's not easy, like if the path is not like everything goes just the way that you want it to go, like the first time, like the first month that you put an offer out, like it will sell $1 million. And then if they don't, they feel like, oh, well, like I'm in the wrong place. Like maybe this isn't right. Like, how do people know that they're like energetically that it is going to come to them, it is going to flow to them, but not kind of jump the gun? Like, how do they know to give it enough time? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, what I say to people, and people who work with me, you'll find out like they like, you need to like strap in, because you know this is a thing, right? So this is not for sissies, I say. So what I tell people is, when you're on your true purpose, it should scare the bejesus out of you. You should be terrified. If you're not terrified, it's a marginally interesting, you're getting closer to it, you know? So that's the way it was for me in business. Like, business was so easy for me. Like, it was so easy. And so I think, you know, like in the back of my mind, I must have known, like, you know, this is so easy. Like, I wonder. I have to tell you, coming out as an intuitive, coming out as a spiritual person, coming out and saying I channel, scared the living crap out of me. I just texted one of my friends today that she was here with me in this very room 2 years ago when I did my first Facebook Live. I was hyperventilating. So, and it was, I had spoken, you would believe, I used to fly around the country and close deals with major, you know, companies. I used to do, like, the things that I used to do would scare most people. Me doing a little teeny tiny Facebook Live where probably 3 people were watching it. I literally, like, head between knees. She's like, don't throw up, you know, kind of thing, because it was so important to me. This is so personal. This is so incredibly personal. So that when you step in that zone, then you are like, ugh, but you keep saying yes, and then you keep saying yes, and you keep saying yes. So to get back to their point there, the universe is really kind in some ways, in that when you first step in and you're really nervous and you do your first thing, you will, all that low hanging fruit, it's like the universe has been waiting for you, and you will get this big burst of business. You just will. And then it levels off and or dies down. So what ends up happening with me, a lot of clients will come to me and say, it was so great 3 months ago or a year ago. And I'm like, yes, you're here in the right place, because you need to excavate more. You need to align more. I will tell you, after you've done this and you are on your purpose and you've said yes, and you've gotten out of the jacuzzi into the cold pool, Joanne, then it does become easier. When you're in your joy and you're in your passion and you're standing fully in your power of purpose, things do. That's when synchronicity, the floodgates open. That's where you meet people. Kate, I met you too. Like, we're going to work together. It's going to be beautiful. And what was that? I met someone else. It was a nanosecond. I didn't even think about it, nor did you. Those things happen. The supports come in place. You just find yourself in the right place at the right time, doing the right things.
And I think that's interesting too. It's like, when you open yourself up to that vulnerability, that's when I started meeting people who I'm now like business besties with, and we all refer to each other. That's when I asked Joanne to be my business partner. When I just said, like, I'm where I'm supposed to be, and I love this so much, it then allowed me to open myself up even more to other opportunities and get those wide angle lenses that I didn't have before.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it is vulnerable. You do have to trust. So this is where the mind, again, is a beautiful tool, but will hold you back. You will always find a reason to say no. I should say it differently. Your mind will always find a reason to say no.
Right.
In your heart, and when you're in a true purpose, you'll find a reason to say yes. Like, all of a sudden you'll find space on your calendar, or you'll have, more energy to do something, or you'll just, reconfigure something to be like, okay, yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. And here's the thing about joy. Joy is a little bit edgy. Happiness is super content. You're reading your book, you're in your whoopee, you're sitting in front of the fire, you're drinking your tea. Joy is you're flinging yourself off the cliff with a bungee cord, and you're going, I wonder if it's going to hold. I don't know. But it's exhilarating. It's like enlivening. So, like, right now, there's been a reset. This is a reset. Like, this is unprecedented. We have not been in these times before. In some ways they feel beautiful because things are quieting and things are calmer. There are dolphins showing up in Venice. There are just these beautiful things, and yet it's scary as bleep. And it's scary because we're tracking things we normally wouldn't be tracking, and we're concerned about things we normally don't think about. And it's really because no one said, because no one knows, at this time, it will end. Right? So we're in this unfamiliar time. It's uncertain, it's unknown. And with that, we need to flex. This could be the new normal. We're not sure. I will tell you, I am sure energetically it 100% is. Not in this way, but this is more that feminine way. Now I'm going to get a little woo. This is where we're going. This is where more of the collective, more of the grassroots leading from within, leading from the bottom, leading from the sides. No more of this top-down leadership. This is the new era. So with that, we need to ask ourselves, how do we want to lead ourselves? How do we want to show up? And it could be for ourselves, it could be for our families, it could be for our business, it could be for our clients, it could be all of the above. I'm saying that mindset will be helpful right now, but remember, it's only the first tool and it's only one. You have many more tools in that toolkit. Following your heart, really deepening, really knowing what your power of purpose is will really bring you forth. And you'll make money and you'll be successful and you'll have joy and things will get easier.
So what about people that, like, for example, I'm a video content producer. So right now I can't do that at all. Luckily, I have some clients that I saw before, and so I can still video edit and get that out. But if, it goes 6 months, I'm not able to do that, it's like stab into my heart. So for people who do some sort of business that is being significantly impacted, now we have other offers so we can shift, but like my thing is like the video content, right? That's where I get I get that feeling. For people who that's all they have in terms of their offer arsenal or like what they're doing, how would you recommend they get through this time being confident that they are in their life's purpose, even if these things are kind of uncertain?
Yeah, that's why I'm saying get underneath the covers of what it is that you do, because Kate, you're offering so much help for people, right? And you're looking at the tools that you've used to build your business, and you're looking at different ways of doing video content. Like, I'm assuming we're going to do video content and we're going to find a way to do this online, and it might not be exactly the right lighting but you're going to do magic, and it's still going to be magical. And it's going to be magical to the marketplace. It's certainly going to be magical to me. So with people, what I'm asking them to do is to let go of some of those preconditions that we have, and that whatever that is. Like, I normally do it this way, and I love to do it. So you can imagine I have a lot of healers in my client, book of business, and so a lot of them are hands-on. We're looking at what can you do remotely? What can you do with small groups remotely? Again, you're usually on site, but how can you do that remotely? I do also work with people who are, in the hair industry, and that is 100%, their business. But I'm saying, you know what? It's not only that. You're actually counseling, and obviously you don't have a degree, so we'll be careful about that. But I'm saying, how can you help people? What do people normally come in with? What do you find yourself saying? What advice do you find yourself giving? How are you listening? And how can you then provide that in maybe a group setting or maybe one-on-one with people, because they're missing that. They're missing that piece. So this is why I want to get really, really deep in what skills, like what's your zone of genius, what skills do you use, and what do you like to use? There is a way to creatively offer those right now. And it's asking to do things differently. And it's asking to do things maybe for you to come up and you used to be able to, and this sounds terrible and I don't mean it to be, but like hide behind the hair. Now you're coming out and you're saying, but no, 100%, this is what I do. The other thing you can do is always help people in that business, the like business. So for you could help other videographers, you can help other photographers. You can say, this is how I built my business model. This is my passion, is helping people and to demonstrate personal branding. So I can do it in this way. So you might be a train the trainer, teach the teacher.
Yeah. And I do have one question that I just kind of, so you work with a lot of healers, right? And so I was talking about this in a live stream the other day, that like energetically, other people's energy doesn't necessarily affect me.
Okay.
But I know it affects other people. Like it affects Joanne. So like we're always cognizant of that. Like we make sure that we only do certain things, certain times of the day.
Yep.
Like we make sure that like we're not like stacking certain things because too much of other people needing things from her takes away. Or if it's tough, we just need to like manage it, right?
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people right now on social media, especially, they're feeling this drain because of all of this stress, right? And I feel like they're really having trouble showing up in the way that they even normally would because they're feeling so drained energetically.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you feel that way? How are you able to I guess adjust for that? And like, what do you tell people that follow you who I would assume also kind of have some of those traits?
Absolutely. So the energy right now is really heavy. So it just feels really heavy because people are, first of all, it's not flowing the way it normally does because people aren't moving around the way they normally do. So there's something really cleansing about that, even though sometimes that can feel frenetic. But we didn't go from being overly frenetic in the movement to just quieting it down. We went from that to stopping. So there's a difference in the energy. And then we didn't just do it to stop because we decided to have like a silent, quiet day at home. We're stopping again for a moment in time. I'm calling it a moment because we don't know how long the moment's going to be. At first we thought it was a few days and a few weeks. Now we're hearing a few months. Like this is a thing, right? So this is not mind. This is energy, and I'm honoring that. So with that, what I've been doing is I've been doing a lot in my group, my Power Up group. We did like a wash, like literally just like energetically washing yourself, because a lot of people will talk about the protective, bubble that you can use or color, and I'll get to that in a moment. But that's sticky right now. That's what I say. When the energy gets heavy, or it's in the collective, it's doubt and fear. That's like the heaviest, most sticky energy. So people who are super empathic want to like cleanse, right? So we did this super fun, like I had rainbow bubbles going on, and we just did this gorgeous cleansing. It was like maybe 3 minutes of an exercise. So that would be really good to do. Then really powering yourself up. I will say when you are so in your power center, you're more immune, not 100% immune, but more immune. Something like this right now, even that, so this is where going really, really deep. Like I have a tree visualization that helps people. I do have this gorgeous, I love to work with color because color is so accessible for people. You can go into the color, like meditation if you want, like really look for ways that you can, I say shift, but it's more, shift I think is the best word, to shift that energy, because you don't want to be walking around with it. For some people, it could be riding their bike. It could be walking their dog. It could be cooking. It could be gardening. It could be reading. Find things that you like to do that give you solace if you don't, want to lean into that meditative piece. But if you do want to lean into the meditative piece, drumming, chanting, anything with sound is really cleansing. Colors really cleansing. If you want to get into tools, there's crystals, there's flower essences, there's essential oils. There's so many tools out there to help us. You're going to need them. I'm telling people to kind of go back to basics. When I talk to my healers about going back to basics, that means maybe doing a protective thing where they haven't had to do that in years, or doing that scrub where they wouldn't normally think of it, or doing that for their house or their family, or grabbing some tools that they wouldn't normally use, because this is a moment. And so we have tools available that we may have thought we outgrew, but maybe going back to them will give us some solace.
What I'm really loving about what you're saying is that this moment in time, no matter how long it lasts, we can feel comfort that if we are on our purpose, that we're going to be okay,
Mm-hmm.
that our businesses are going to be okay.
Yep.
That we can even be successful making lemonade out of lemons, or, however you want to put it.
Yep.
That if we're in our purpose and in our power, everything's going to be fine. And it's just a moment in time.
Absolutely. I'm doing strategy because, again, going back, like with my clients, I've done some strategy sessions, which that's not normally what we do. I can. That gave them, we did some planning for, like, I was saying to everybody 10 weeks, even 2 weeks ago, I was saying, let's just plan for 10 weeks. Whatever the number of weeks are, let's just think 10. This was giving the mind a place to go and something to wrap around. and to then start being comfortable with, right? But even more than that, I just did 2 7-figure, one well into the 7 figures, and one, this woman is in the mid 6 figures, and we did a 7-figure strategy. It's so doable. She's fully aligned. And she's saying yes, and she's showing up, and she's helping. So there's an expansion for those who want to lead. And here's the thing, I love what you all talked about before with authenticity, with that vulnerability, right? With that truth of who you are. So you'll feel it, like you'll feel people saying, you can grow, and that's fine. If they're not, then you're gonna sense that. Remember, this is a year of integrity, so you're gonna feel it. You're not gonna know why you're feeling it, but you notice there's a lot of messaging like, don't be sleazy right now, like don't sell. There was a lot of that going on a few weeks ago, and I'm like, I'm not selling, I'm educating and supporting. I'm offering right now. So there's just a difference. It could be a nuance, but there's really a difference that would become more and more evident as this year, and quite frankly, as the rest of the life goes on.
So I'm going to shift it a tiny bit, because I know that you know, a lot of people are maybe who didn't know about it before are becoming more and more aware of the law of attraction.
Yep.
And I know that a lot of people, you know, have been doing, even if they're like not even woo, have been doing certain things to try to, you know, to try to make that happen in their lives, whether it's about wealth or opportunities or whatever the case may be. What do you think about law of attraction, and how does that play into all of this?
Okay. First of all, if the law of attraction were 100% of the equation, when The Secret came out in late 2006, we would all be living our dream lives right now by thinking about it, right? So even when it came out, I was like, I love this because it made it so accessible, and it made it like people were talking about things that I could only talk about like probably by myself at that time. So yay. But again, it's a first step, and it's a great first step. It's a first step. Because here's the deal. This is why I talk about conditioning and expectation. There's things in your subconscious. There's things about the way you were brought up. There are things in your ancestry. There are things that, and I am going to go way woo, there are things in your past lives. There are things that have impacted you, that have imprint on you, that you're not aware of. So if you are one of those people that are wildly, rapidly working with law of attraction, and you haven't seen the results, that you feel like, damn, I should be seeing results, there's subconscious blocks there. If you haven't worked with the law of attraction, start. It's a great way to start. You will feel momentum. You'll see evidence of it, because if you haven't been using it, then it's something new. It's another tool in your tool belt. So figure out where you are on that, in that range, you know, using it all the time, you know, getting results, great. Using it all the time, not getting results, versus I haven't used it yet, you know? So if you're in that middle of that range, then you're going to want to seek to get under the covers more. And that could be working with a healer. That could be working with a therapist. That could be working with journaling or exercises, or there's something deeper there. There's definitely something deeper there that's a block. You're going to want to release the block. That's part of my work. That's what I do.
It's like law of attraction and mindset work are like the gateway.
Yep.
Woo.
Yep.
You know,
yeah,
like,
totally. Yes, 100%.
I needed to work more. How do I do that?
Woo. No, and you don't. Like, you don't have to get crazy woo. Like, I'm crazy woo. You do not need to get crazy woo. You can be, you know, deeply in your body. You can get really in your heart. You can really ignite your power. You know, there are ways to do this that you don't have to be howling at the full moon, although that's really fun.
That's going to be our next summit. Everyone's going to get
there you go. How woo can you go?
Yeah.
At their next live, Kate.
I
think that would be fun.
We're all howling. We're going to do some howling.
Singing is really therapeutic. Singing
it's like a release, right? You would be releasing some.
Absolutely. It vibrationally releases within your body. Singing is a beautiful, beautiful thing to do.
Absolutely. That's why I sing to everyone every day. It's not pretty. Ask Joanne. I sing to her
all the time.
She mutes the computer or the phone until I stop.
No.
But it's a release and a cleanse for you. It really is really good.
Yeah. Well, it just makes me happy. Just
Yeah.
singing
That's
like,
your
hey,
cleansing, Kate.
my
You have
cleansing.
more woo than what you realize.
It's all inside. So Kim, tell me, you told me about your group, which sounds like the most amazing group ever, which is why I joined like 2 weeks ago, and it is. You're doing some amazing things in there. Can you tell people about your group, what it's about? Give us all the details.
Yeah, so it's about power up, because what I want to do in the collective is give people tools that they can use if they can't see me one-on-one, or they're not getting that one-on-one support from other people. So it's a group of us that are together, and it is, I've been told most recently, like, stay in your magical lane, so that's the groovy goodness. And so what I'm doing is, obviously the last 2 weeks I've been recognizing that there's more support, and so I've been in every day doing lives. And so what I talked about was, like, that first one that I did was like, be the eye of the storm, and this was 2 weeks ago. So there were so many things we didn't know then, even then, but really giving yourself, and that's where I did the washing meditation. So what I typically do is I typically talk, when I do a live, I typically talk very practical, very, very, tips and advice for about 20 minutes. And then I do about 10 minutes of meditation. So I have some people that slip in for the meditation. I have some people that just stay for those, the practical tips. Then I have some people that like both. I personally like to enter life with both. That's why I offer it that way. But normally what I'll do is I'll talk about what's going on, because I'm also an oracle, right? So I'll talk about what's going on, what's happening, what you can expect, how you can use the energy in the world to help you, what to avoid. So like today is like, there's a little stickiness today, so we can avoid some things today. But overall, it's a really powerful week. We can really use that power to help us. And then I do give business tips. I talk about, things that are coming up with people. I'll give some, like, hey, this is what my clients are feeling right now. How are you feeling? It's meant to be a collective. Right now, it's mostly women. If it stays that way, we have a few men in the group. They never say anything, so they're like crickets inside, So it is. So really, my mission in the Power Up group is, within Power, is for you to really know your own power. And that's what my free, handout, that's my opt-in on the website, is all about you owning your own power. And then there's Power with the energy that's available to everyone. It's having, like, I call it like your invisible team, your imaginary friends, like you could be your secret weapon. Just, you can use this to help you. And then there's collective power, working together. Women helping women. This is the new way. This is where we're going, right? In a very collaborative, beautiful, supportive fashion. So my goal is to do all three in that group. And so I love that group.
So good. So good. So we're going to link the group in the description, guys, so that you can look it up and go join it, because it is magical. It is like the most magical group I've ever, and I've been in a lot of groups. It's so good. And so tell us too about the kind of, we talked a little bit about it, but the one-on-one work that you are doing, what does that look like? Who are those folks that you're working with, and what do you do for them? How can people connect with you, and how can you help, especially during this time?
Yeah, so that's a great thing. So it's transformative work that I do. So when people come to me, they're either just fascinated by what I do and they just want to know more, right? Like, so many people, when I say the word channel, they kind of lean in, like, wait, what? Tell me, what are the things? And then other people are frustrated, right? They've reached a plateau maybe, or they don't have their joy, or they're questioning whether they're on their purpose. So that's why people come to me. When they come to me, I will tell you, you want to be ready, because your life is going to change. And I mince no words about that. Like, that is 100% going to happen. So you're going to have more joy. You're going to have more abundance. You're going to have more ease. It's just that simple. So when I work, things go in like, I love threes. So things go in threes. So there's a whole oracle awareness piece that happens where I'm channeling, or I'm going into your records, or I'm going into the stars, or I'm going into ancestry, or all the things. Like, you gain tremendous awareness. This gives the mind something to grab hold on. So it could be about your future, it could be about your past, it could be about your lineage, it could be about, who you are and your purpose. That's where we start. I'm just branching off of that. And then we go into healing. So I actually am a healer. I will go and facilitate your healing. We'll do things around safety and support. Obviously, that's a big one. So I'm running like in between sessions with clients, I'm doing that with them. Abundance is another big one. Joy is another big one. More love is a big one, like self and other. I'm doing a lot because my personal story is around not having a mother who was, demonstrative in love, and she was a narcissist, so there was no daylight for me. I do a lot of work with the archetypal mother energy. Just trying to think if there's any other threads that are coming up right now. Yeah, so there's, changing scarcity and lack to abundance, changing sort of any limiting beliefs and judgment to beautiful discernment, changing like control, needing control to gorgeous influence. Those are the types of things that come up with healing. And then there's the practical brass tacks. I've got 25 years of business experience. I can answer anything in business, right? So it's really funny what's happening with my clients now. Like my clients are now they want to know, like, what about my spouse and what about my children? And so that business side has now become more about exploring other family members, which is beautiful and I love doing. And so now the Voxer has turned into the business advice, which I got to tell you, it takes me a nanosecond to answer a question. So I'm all fine with that. So yeah, like, and I did mention that I did do strategy work with 2 people that it really wasn't on the docket. So that's one thing that you'd want to know about me, is that when I go into your energy that first time, I will download all the things. I typically work with people for 6 months. I'll have really all the quote unquote answers at that time, and I'll make record of it. But then each session is up to you. I do not have this program that you go through. I have the protocol, of course, that's that 3-part I just explained, but it's whatever's coming up for you. It's wherever we need to go. This prior session is going to influence the next session, which is then going to influence the next session. So everything is wildly individualized, as it should. I don't know. That's why my integrity comes in. I feel like it should be.
Well, I guess because everybody's path would be so uniquely different depending on, especially what you found out in that first piece.
Absolutely. And so just another, because I noticed you love tidbits here. So I'll give you another little golden nugget. Every soul will only replicate once every 25,000 years. So you are so incredibly unique. I'm just like massively underscoring uniqueness. So again, sure. I mean, I love small group work. I love programs. I love them. And yet recognize when you do them, you're going to get X percentage, depending on how much you're aligned with that. So I love to do, this is why, you asked me when I'm launching, I'm not launching group work until Q3. Love the one-on-one, especially now. For me, it feels like there's not a pause moment, but a pregnant moment. We're all just getting more fecund with our delicious goodness and our power. How are we going to be poised after that? Gorgeously, right? So the one-on-one work, I've been beckoned to do more of it, doing it. It's deepening. The energetic healing and energetic power available is unprecedented right now. It totally will.
I mean, that's what people need now more than ever, I feel like, because it's, you're staying home and you're doing work and you're doing this and you're doing that. And that seems on the surface, like simple, like you just have to get used to it. But there's this just a whole nother level, no matter how woo or not woo you are, of energetic stuff going on.
Impact.
And people don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, it's impact. We're all being impacted. And the other thing, like I'm in a lot of people's groups right now because they're asking me to go in, and I'm more than happy to. I love it. I just love this. And so what I'm saying to people is that, I say go back to basics, but it's happening for you, and it's happening in your families too. Like, if you have children or even your pets, all of a sudden you're doing support for them that you haven't done. So I've been saying to people, like I've been giving ranges like where you might be in your family, and I've been saying go back. Recognize you're going back. And with clients too. Your client, you may be more of a lighter touch with your client. Maybe they just finished, or maybe you've just reached that point with them that, how there's the beginning, you're really care and feeding a lot, and then you're more like managing, and then you're more guiding, right? Mm-hmm. And so recognize you're going back. Like my clients, even my new clients, and quite frankly, even my leads, I'm offering support in a way that I wasn't offering before, because now's the time.
Right.
It just is.
I love that point. I don't think anyone's talking about that. How no matter who you talk to, it is like you're providing. Everybody has this stress going on. No one's unique in this. We're all experiencing this thing. We're all experiencing it differently as far as how we deal with it and our feelings, but everybody does want extra support. And then when we're providing extra support, it's like we're giving even more of ourselves than we usually are. And that, I don't think I've heard anybody say that. And I've watched a lot of live streams over the last couple of weeks about how to adjust your business and your services. And I love that point.
Yeah. And again, I've given people like literally like, here's what it looks like in these boxes or these columns, if you will, and you're going back. And that has really helped your mind, right? Like, this is the thing. We do want to help the mind. The mind wants to grasp. The mind can't say yes until it grasps it, right? This is why mindset is that first step. So you give the mind some information and it goes, oh, yes, 100%. And this is why I did a live in my group for extreme self-care last week, because self-care is like interesting, but extreme self-care, 100%, right? So because recognize as you're being drawn and giving more, you actually want to have that beautiful reciprocity going on. So you want to be receiving, right? And so a lot of us, especially women, we are programmed to look externally and how do we give, right? This is why one of my things is breaking the pattern of that. Because yes, it's not about not giving. It's about generously, beautifully, and authentically giving, but then trusting enough to receive as well. So look at what you're giving. You're giving this gorgeous summit. I mean, this is so delicious for so many people. And yet what you also want to do is make sure that you're staying open to receive as well.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
I touched on that like topic basically a little bit yesterday in our live, like, you know, you have to, well, I think I did it on Friday, the one that had the bad sound. But there is a point where you can't just give. It has to be, there's a give and take that's involved in all relationships.
Absolutely. And the definition of abundance that I always do is that figure eight of infinity. So you're giving and receiving. So if you then step into pure giving mode right now, you're going to be pushing sales off. So you want to be in that receiving. Yeah, it's just this beautiful infinity. And it's the season of abundance coming up in Power Up. So you guys, so much deliciousness there.
Well, and I love that you said that, because you had touched on it before, but there's like a lot of shaming going on about people selling and marketing their services, that we're like, people are taking advantage of the situation, and that gets to people, you know, like, I'm just like, eh. But it really, you know, especially people who, this is their like heart, this is everything to them. And like, the last thing they want to do is be like skeezy or like, you know, or be predatory. And so I love that you're like giving permission for people to do what they always do in service. I tell our clients, like, you're helping people, you're providing a service. You shouldn't feel bad about that. Like, you're really helping them out. You're giving them permission to do that, to keep doing what they love.
I'm doing more than that. In my group, I actually said, how dare you not?
Jazz fingers, jazz hands. That's amazing.
Yeah. Honestly, like seriously, how dare you not? Like, how dare I run into a corner and cower right now? Right? I mean, anybody can. It's available to every single person. And so, and if someone does, and you take a pause moment, you know, I mean, I'm going to overshare. My dad, we buried my dad, and then who came out with this, you know, pandemic? It was like literally like the next day. And I was like, because I'm in my purpose, and because I know, and then because I do have the super woo, so I was talking to him and it was fine. But you know, I was able to just, there was no pivot. There was just like, oh, okay, here's now. And then boom, show up, because it was like immediately it was like, how do you not? So again, feel vulnerable for the old overshare. So thanks for bearing witness to that. We all have things. And so if we're in our purpose, and when we're in our purpose, you can't help yourself. Like, you just want to be doing this. You just, and people are saying to me like, you're glowing, and I'm like, I'm in my space. I am here to serve and to help you live your life purpose. And now could never be a better time for that. You know, you're there to help solidify people to be able to then message it, because I say to people, whatever you know is interesting, but if and until you can communicate it, it's not available to a lot of people, right? So you guys got to help me. Thank you so much. Because that's really critically important. Having impact, being able to amplify and influence, like this is, if you're saying yes, if you're watching this and you're still watching this after all this time, like you are 100% ready to serve and ready to lead.
I love that.
Yeah, definitely. Beautiful.
So Kim, thank you. I've gotten goosebumps like multiple times and teary-eyed once. That's very hard to accomplish, I have to tell you. So
I was sitting here going, okay, she just described me. Okay, this is the situation I'm in right now. This is this situation I'm in.
Like,
oh, nice.
Notes and notes and notes. Amazing. It's like fire. I don't know. It's like fire.
No matter where you are in your business, there's so much goodness in this last hour that is relatable to everyone. It's super helpful, and I hope everyone makes it all the way to the end and really gets what you're bringing to them. This is awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you. And well, before you go, I know that you offered our folks a really good freebie. And it's the 10 ways to holding yourself back as a female leader and how to take power back today. So can you tell us a little bit about that? I'm going to link it in the description. So if you don't remember the link, that's fine. But tell them a little bit about that and also how they can get in touch with you to work with you.
Yeah, definitely. So it's about being in your power. So if you're unable to get exactly to your purpose, because that will power you up, there are things that you can do. And so I grabbed the 10 top tips that I would find like over and over again. And so it's a guide you can flip through. There's a lot of story and proof, and just you can relate. You know, I'm hoping to get people to be able to relate, but you'll be able to read and go, oh yeah, that's that. And it's not like it's just pointing that out. It's actually giving you the remedy for it. So there are 10. And what I normally, when you work with me, you'll know, like in a group, I'll say, it's a buffet. Pick one or two that you like. I'm just offering the buffet because there are so many people, right? And everybody's different. So take the one or two tips and start using them in your life and start wearing them, and then maybe go back and take one or two more. But if you only get one or two, it's worth it. It's free, right? And so if that's the guide, the Power Up group, we're going to put the link in. And then if you want to work with me, you're going to hop on a call. We're going to talk. We're going to chat for 20 or 25 minutes. We're going to see if we jive together. So that's on my website as well. And if you want to put the link to the connection call, we can do that.
Yeah. I'm going to put all of those links because I know people will be clamoring for them after this interview. Like, I don't want to get in touch with her. So I'll put your Power Up group. I'll put the call as well as that amazing guide. So you guys can do all three of those. I would highly recommend it. Obviously, you guys are just, I know that you're all lit up if you've gotten this far. And I know that your brains are just going like crazy. You know, you can really follow so many things that Kim talked to you about here, whether you are just starting, whether you're wanting to scale, whether you're stressed out about the situation that we're in right now. And Kim, I thank you so much for bringing that insight to the summit. And I cannot wait to talk to you more. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, Kate. Thanks, Joanne.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.